You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Greetings. That song was popular back in the 1960s, You Are My Sunshine, and you could either interpret it as being a very depressing song or being a very sentimental song. Well, I just sang for you the refrain in order to determine, to test the hypothesis of whether it is a depressing song or a sentimental song. Listen to the first verse. The other night, dear, when I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. Then I hung my head and cried. Well, that's the answer. It was a depressing song, not a sentimental song. As if that were not enough. What was it that was on the flip side of that song? Well, for those of you who are too young to know what a flip side is, let me show you a hard rubber record, 78 RPM, which means it would go around 78 times per minute, revolutions per minute. And this is what we used to listen to music on when I was very young. Now, on this disc, there are little grooves. They are very groovy grooves, by the way. And on these grooves, there are sound waves. A stylus on an arm would then drag along as the disc would spin, and the waves would go to the speaker and you would hear the sound. Okay, so that would be on one side, but since this is a hard disk, you could flip it over. This is the flip side. Okay, so this is not, of course, the actual one of You Are My Sunshine, but what is this? Oh, Al Goodman and his orchestra, and Earl Wrightson is the baritone. Why, that, he was really famous. This must be a very famous piece of music. Let's see what it's called. The Donkey Serenade. Okay, anyway, at least I just wanted to show you what we meant by on the flip side. What was on the flip side of You Are My Sunshine? And it is, I'm crying myself to sleep. These lonely nights I'll weep. I'm all right through the day, but when day goes away, I'm crying myself to sleep. Well, that leaves no doubt. We have tested the hypothesis in 3 different ways that this was a depressing song. Now, some amateur musicologists have recently asserted that You Are My Sunshine was written by none other than Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. Yes, that's right, that Tchaikovsky, the Tchaikovsky of The Nutcracker, 1812 Overture, Sleeping Beauty, etc. Now, you might think, how is it possible that man who wrote such happy music could have written such a depressing piece of music? Well, actually, Tchaikovsky was not a very happy man. He tried at least twice to commit suicide. He wrote the 6th Symphony, the Pathétique Symphony, which he claimed was the story of his life. And then he tried to kill himself. The first time was when he would swim in the river Moskva, or maybe it was the Volga, I don't know which it was. In the winter, it was very cold, and he tried to freeze to death. That didn't work. So then he drank water that he knew had cholera in it, and not surprisingly, he died of cholera. So anyway, that would explain that Tchaikovsky was, in fact, a sad enough man to have written You Are My Sunshine. But that lends only credibility. It is not evidence, and that's why I'm including this video on a science channel. What is the evidence and how good is it? Well, these amateur musicologists took a closer look at the original manuscript of the 1812 Overture. Now let me explain this overture to you by Tchaikovsky. It has 2 main themes. The first is the Napoleon theme, which goes something like this. I'm sure you've heard it. Okay? Now, Napoleon in 1812 he was the emperor of France, he tried to take over Russia. It didn't work out too well. Recently, French President Emmanuel Macron tried to think of something good to say about Napoleon, and so he said he was important. Okay, we'll give him that. Napoleon was important. But also then there was the Russian hymn. Dum, 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 dum. Okay, so that was in the 1812 overture. According to these amateur musicologists, they looked at parts that they claimed Tchaikovsky had written but then had erased. Okay, now, in the Napoleon theme, for instance, they claim to have found the following. That Tchaikovsky had written some words and music. You are my son, you my only son, you make me happy, when skies are gray. Okay, well, maybe that was just coincidence, but it seems beyond coincidence when they claim that in the theme of the Russian hymn, they found that Tchaikovsky had written, in Russian of course, you are my sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray, etc. Well, if true, this would be the most subjunctively important fact in the history of music. But I want you to question just how believable that is. When somebody claims to be saying it was written and erased, and then they're the only people who could see it there, maybe it's not really true. Now, can you believe anything that I just said? Well, maybe it doesn't matter because I'm using this as an illustration of the scientific way of knowing. And if perhaps this thought experiment has helped you out, then please share this video with your friends on Facebook. And meanwhile, tally-ho and amen. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.